You sure?
Okay, let's do that because I can make that. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. I think we are live. I'll have to check
Morning, all.
who's where. How are you doing, Jeff?
Oh, mate, it's top of the world.
Awesome. Well,
Well, although I live on the bottom of the world, I like to flip that upside down.
well, I mean, briefly, we'll talk about this footsie, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail.
Mate,
Finally,
you've
it's
had a
broke.
couple of cracks there, but look at it, eh? It
Oh,
just
mate, do you
doesn't
know
want to get
what?
below
Yeah,
that level.
I've been in this trade since Thursday, and it just went nowhere. I was looking at a slightly different line, because sometimes you get trend lines within trend lines, and I was looking at or patterns within patterns, if you like, and I was looking at this pattern to be sort of like the first one to break down, and it just got a little bit scruffy, and it broke down here, and as it was kind of back testing, it gave me a little bar there, so I managed to get in. Didn't break down for deep enough, came down to the trend line, bounced, and now it's gone through the trend line. But interestingly, there's been very little committed follow through. So and this is the thing about these patterns. Every now and again, you just have to keep adjusting them rather than trusting that what you've got is the final pattern. So we have broken through. We've for the first day in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days is the first step down of the daily pivot. So I guess there was a little bit of weakening yesterday. That's just expressed there as well. And we may even be getting a left shoulder and a head and a possible right shoulder here. So there's a few things that have started to go in my favour. Which also, if we look at the daily chart, then we will see that we had a bit of a gap up, when the trade started, but it is kind of a little bit of dark cloud cover at this, in this particular area. So that is a little bit of a signal for some possible bearish price action. But the issue really now starts to come in is that does this range really exist? Maybe just as high as this point here, and all we're going to do is dip down this and start to take off again. So I've got to wonder what the catalyst is, and the chances that I get out of this with a bit of profit, I still think are pretty high. But the chances that I'm going to make the whole lot in one hit, maybe they diminished a little bit. And what I might end up doing is if I can come out of here and just grab some pips on the way down, just like a shallow retracement, I may well take it off to see if that bounce is likely to give me another shot at coming down. So I might well take it off here now. That's the judgment I've got to make is whether, firstly, I just misjudged the timing, and it's that it's just started to shape up now, so don't worry about it and see it come down, or that this just doesn't want to come down, and my setup was absolutely fine, but just does not want to come down. I mean, I could get stuck in a trade for even longer than 4 days, so that goes nowhere. So I've got to make a judgment call if it starts to just retrace down and give me a few pips here. I won't come out too early, but I want at least a 30 pip run to the downside before I consider taking anything off the table. But until that happens, until we start to ease back again, I can't really make a decision on that. But I think it's going to be about catalyst. What's the
Yeah,
what's
I
the
was
move
about to ask
about?
you what's going to drive this whichever way.
Well, the drive to the upside was to do with Donald Trump and the trade wars, and he did make an announcement. I think you said this yesterday. He did make an announcement that he believes that the discussions and negotiations are going pretty well, and there was a March 1st deadline for this to be sorted out. But I don't really want to have to live on hope that the trade war doesn't get cleared up, and that's what's going to drive the market down, because that's what I've got right now. I don't have anything concrete. The only thing I would say is that nothing's been sorted. So until anything's sorted, there's still possible there's still a possible logjam going on. The other possible thing that could happen is that we start to see the pound rally significantly, which would have potentially have the adverse effects on the FTSE. Now, those 7 Labour MPs yesterday that I didn't really think about the significance, but as the day went on and I managed to read up more about it, those 7 Labour MPs that resigned yesterday could have some significance in this Brexit discussion, which we will talk about later on. So possibly the pound driving up could ease the FTSE back a bit. Could be trade wars. It could be something going on in the eurozone that suggests some weaker numbers, or China that suggests some weaker numbers. So there's a few things that could drive it, but nothing that I would necessarily have that much confidence in just yet. So we got to wait and see. That's what I mean, basically. I mean wait and see mode. And as I say, I have been since Thursday. It's been a little little frustrating. Interestingly, you know what?
That's a bloody lot frustrating.
Yeah, do you know, I was going to re-enter yesterday. I was going to re-enter when the market popped up to this point here. But and I could have got some pips out of that. But my question to myself was, am I far enough away from entry to warrant a re-entry already? Because if it goes against me, then I'm in double. I'm in twice, and it's got a long way to travel. You know, it's this if we're looking at this on a weekly chart, there's a potential that this just goes up here. Now I can hold one position to this point, and it be pretty awful, but not disastrous. And even hedge, I can, but if I hedge it out, then it won't be a problem at all. But even if I didn't hedge, I could hold this up here, and it wouldn't be an absolute disaster. But if I had 2 positions that were going up to this point, then that would be kind of stressful. So I thought I'm going to take the sweat out of it and not re-enter. And even though on the short term it proves to be maybe the wrong decision, because it would have made some money, in the long term, I think it proves to be the right one, because what you can end up doing is almost changing your thought process, and over time it just chips away, and then by month 5 you forgot what you're doing in the first place. So I had a plan when this one started out, and I'm just going to try and stick to it, which is really just to give this some room to breathe.
All right, mate. Well, let's hope it does, and eventually gets where you want it to go. For God's sake, pain in the bum. Yeah,
I mean, it'll do something. If do you know what? If it doesn't come down, it pops up, which is actually it's actually okay, because that's when the hedge will go into play. So I'm not too concerned at this stage.
Okay, cool. That's Angus has just noticed something outside, obviously. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thought you might have an opinion on the trade.
I wonder what it was. I'll have to turn that into ACD language.
ACD.
That's Australian cattle.
Oh yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Turn it into yeah. And yeah. Do you have some bad beasties over there?
Well, we've got the top 10 or 10 of the top 12 deadly snakes in the world.
In your area?
Yeah. Oh no, we've only got 3 in my area.
Oh yeah. Maybe sensing something like that.
They're pretty decent. Well, there's rabbits running all over the place outside.
Oh. They didn't seem that deadly.
The chooks, and chooks are Australian for chickens, by the way.
Yes, yeah, no, I got the chooks. Yeah. I learned that one from neighbours, I think.
Okay, they tend to ruffle him up a little bit, but generally it's somebody at the gate, mate.
Okay.
So, yeah, he just goes and investigates, and sometimes comes back with an arm or a leg.
Yeah.
And then I have to go and apologise.
Give their arm back. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Chief.
Well, let's check your charts. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to do some digging for some news of the day. I mean, there's a little bit more news about these 7 defectors from the Labour Party that may shape the day. I'll tell you what, when I look at that pattern there, that does look like a pretty nice head and shoulders pattern. So there's lots to like about this trade now.
Okay, cool. I'm upside down, around about the same look of you that you've got. Not exactly the same. I'm on the euro, and my analysis on the euro yesterday was that I wanted to wait because we're at a resistance level that we were just shy of a resistance level. We are at a resistance level, that being the trend line. But I thought this level here, 113.40, might get a test before we actually came down and visited the weekly pivot. We're not quite there yet, but that's the best price, I think, that if you're a buyer of euro, that was probably not the best. That's probably the best there, but I think that's more than acceptable if we can get a price down here to trade this long. If you're bullish, and I am to a degree, then that's the place to go. I have placed an order long just in case that doesn't happen, and this is in effect the test of the support level. That support level being 113. That's exactly where that's closed that candle, and that's exactly where we are now. As you can see, we're around about the 113 mark. So crucial, and probably the level of the day, I would suspect. If we tend to drift off down below here and beyond the weekly pivot, then okay, this level does come into play. And I don't know how long I've been waiting for an entry on this, but it's weeks. It's 2 weeks. I haven't found one yet. Oh, sorry, I did last week, didn't I? I found this one here, and we did trade that. I'm not so confident that we're going yet, to be fair. I still want to see a weekly pivot test or this level here before I really get serious. But I have placed a little order just in case this is ready to go now. So I don't want it too close to price because there's a level here and there's a level here. So my entry is above this bar here. This little tiddler on a 4-hour chart. If you want to follow the trade, the entry is at 1.1316, and my stop loss I've snuck down below last Friday's daily pivot, so just under there, and that is what, 34 pips to the south side of my entry, which is 1.1316. I'm only trading this at 0.25%. I may trade this a little bit harder if we get to the levels that I'm talking about and get a setup. And I'm going to take profit quickly at 15 pips here, just before the high, just in case this does go as a fake and then come back and hit this level anyway. So I'm going to get out of here as quickly as possible. Or when I say out, I'm going to close 50%, or a little bit more than 50%, 55% at that level, and then leave some the rest open. I'll probably get rid of this TP2 level and just let it go to here, up to the monthly pivot, or even to this trend line that is on a bigger time frame. So that's the plan on the euro. Pretty much doing what I had expected it to do, but didn't quite reach the resistance level. Maybe we're headed there today. We'll see. I've also got an order placed on euro pound. We spoke about this one yesterday, and I did get a good daily candle close, or what I consider to be a good daily candle close. And I'll explain this one and why I'm looking to trade it. We've got a double top, if you like, on the monthly pivot. We spoke about this yesterday. Big bearish engulfing bar. The one concern, I suppose, that we have here is that we haven't tested the weekly pivot, this week's weekly pivot. Mind you, it's only 2 days old, or not even. Interesting candle, this one, where we had a gap down over the weekend. I think I spoke of this yesterday. What I really want to see was a weekly pivot test, then a pullback, exactly what we had, but it didn't give us that. But it has given us what I consider to be a reversal bar anyway, of the candle, if you like. So rally, retrace, I expect an entry here. And I'm going to take, again, something off the table at a strategic level just before this low here. I think that's wise, and that's around about 1-to-1 by the time you get there, so a little bit less than 1-to-1. I think that's a good place to take profit. And then I'm just going to let this one run. I think at the end of the day, if we can get through here, we may even test these lows, which I know is pretty radical, but
well, I don't know actually, mate, because that's the weekly pivot. Yeah, I really like this trade. I mean, you know, this is the one that we have to consider on the weekly bars, don't we?
Yeah, well, I found a daily candle that I liked. The daily candle yesterday was pretty cool. I like the fact that we closed the gap quickly and then came back off it. We haven't been able to get back above this trend line yet. So I think the entry there is probably in about the right spot. And I think my first take profit level's in the right spot too. So I don't think this is a bad position to take. And I just had to have something go in setup direction, because as we spoke on at length yesterday, that's just that's got a bear written all over it. That if you look that up in the dictionary, it's probably got a picture of a bear sitting there like that. It's somewhat out of context. I'll agree with that. I like to see a tweezer top at the top, and this isn't really at the top, except of that little rally or retracement. But such is the bearishness that precedes it. I can't not go short here, and really that's why I just had to find a way. Hopefully, we can get that TP1 before there's any retracement. Obviously, otherwise the stop loss is in the wrong place. It should be up here, above those tweezer tops. So that's what I'm counting on, that we actually get that TP1 beforehand. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm tightening my risk here. When I'm actually adding to my risk by not putting the stop in the right place. But I think this has got enough in it to get to that level before it does retrace, and that's what I'm hoping. Hope, that's a bad word when you're trading. I always say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. If you're interested in following this one, guys, or if you find that candle interesting and want to put your stops in the right place, which is definitely above here, no question. The entry level is 0.8738, and I'm using a stop loss of 46 pips. I've got it in a relatively safe place, above the weekly pivot, the untested weekly pivot. And I do think if we get above the weekly pivot, we're going here anyway, at least to the monthly pivot, and we make another opportunity to get shorted anyway, if that's going to be the case. We shall see. 41.4 pips. Why 41.4? Because I'm using that as a percentage of my risk, which I think I put at 90%, as I said, just before 1-to-1. But I like the level it's at, and that's why I've done that. And I'm going to leave, I've got TP2 there at 106 pips, but I'll if that's actually existing, which it shouldn't be, I'll disable it. There we go. If we get through there, I'll just want to leave this open to run. So that's exactly what I'll do. So they're the two orders that I've got in the market: Euro pound short and Euro long. The other two cross, or the other cross that I'm interested in, and look, nearly took this morning, to be fair. It's exactly the same scenario, if you like, as I've just described on Euro pound, in that we've got a beautiful reversal bar at a resistance level. Now, the reason I didn't take this trade this morning was that the weekly pivot, the untested weekly pivot's bang in the road. It looks as though it doesn't matter too much the price at the moment. But what I was really looking for was coming into this session with a little bit of a retracement, giving me a better entry than here. And when I say better entry, there is an absolute great candle to trade here. There's no question about that. But the weekly pivot being in the road untested does spook me. I don't like that. And I may get this opportunity yet. This may yet come back to here and give me the lower high that I seek. If it doesn't, then so be it. I'm pretty conservative in that way. I do take very strong notice of where the pivots are, and I do expect price to react off them. So far, not the case, but it is a very bearish bar, the one that precedes it. The hope I have, I suppose, is that we get a second test of the daily pivot. If that's the case, I might get an opportunity. Otherwise, I think I'm just about done. It may be gone. It's too late for confluence. Maybe could hit up there and then come down. Maybe I'll look at that a little bit later. But they're the candidates for today, mate. I think there's possibilities in all three. Now, going to cable, this disappointed me somewhat. Not that it's bounced off the resistance level, but it didn't give me a signal that it was going. We spoke about this yesterday as well, and my analysis was that if we could get a close above these levels, the trend line, the channel, monthly pivot, daily pivot, well, daily pivot wasn't there, to be fair, and this horizontal level, then come back underneath and retest. That would be the place I'd like to go short and trading it to the weekly pivot as a first take profit. Look, that was yesterday, and we did get the bounce off resistance, no question, but we didn't get to the weekly pivot. Whether that's because we had no US session is probably questionable, but I'll put that up as a bit of a reason. I still think it can go there, but I'm not as confident as I was coming off the resistance. Maybe if we get a lower high here at this confluence area, so daily pivot, monthly pivot, trend line, then I might get a little bit more excited than I am currently. But it's in a little bit of a log jam here, and I need to have a very clear signal as to what's going to happen next. So there we go, mate. They're the majors. Yeah, look, I think there's definitely possibilities. I'll be looking at all four of those. And
yeah, we got some earnings today from the UK. The average wage increase. So that could be an interesting number for the pound.
They're tipping an increase, yeah.
They are, as far as I can remember. Let's have a quick look at the news and data for the day. So this is what we've got coming out for us today. We have average earnings index, which they are tipping an increase, and that will help boost the pound. The pound had some decent numbers on Friday, which which did help boost the price of the pound, which is why we've seen it rally. Very well. I guess that it's just kind of trading as normal for right now for things to do with sterling. So average earnings is likely to help it out, certainly against the euro. I'm sure that's going to help your euro trade out. Whoops, that's not what I want. I was just going to check the rest of the week. Wage price index also out of Australia. Now, different metrics have a different weight per currency, so I'm not sure whether this will be that interesting for the Australian currency, but certainly for the pound, the wage increase is actually quite important because of how close it's correlated to CPI at this particular moment. And then this will be an interesting number for the euro, the German manufacturing PMI, because the previous number did actually kind of start to miss the 50% mark. Now they're looking for 50%. So if this dips just under that, one pip below that, that's not going to be too hot for Germany. And we see the French below the 50% balance number. So that's for the services PMI. Manufacturing is looking to be a little bit of a shrink. So they're looking actually for quite a few of these to be shrinking somewhat with the eurozone, except for Germany. They're looking for a dip down with services, but just a hike up a little bit in the German manufacturing, but not a great number still off the back of that. So I think we need to watch out for this because, as I say, this could really start to put some pressure on the euro if we see German manufacturing PMI actually, well, miss 50% is going to be a little bit of a problem. But if they miss this 49.7, that could be a significant problem, I think, for the euro, and we could see that weaken off the back of it. and we see because of that flash manufacturing PMI does shrink a little bit, as according to forecasts on the Euro block itself, and also they are looking for a beat for services. So these numbers tomorrow, sorry, on Thursday, will be of interest, and I think that we do actually start to see some movement in the euro, especially if these numbers miss. I think that there could be some real problems for the euro. And again, you know, a decent number from the UK is probably going to help the pound strengthen against the euro, and some bad numbers out of the euro block is going to help it strengthen further. So you could be on for a decent run if these numbers behave for you.
Yeah, euro pound certainly. Euro dollar not so much. I'm still expecting that to rally at some stage, but if as you say those numbers don't match up, or they're off and miss, then yeah, I'm not bearish. I'm just not bearish at the moment. I'd have to see a fair bit happen, and of course, numbers can do that. Numbers can do that.
Yeah.
I think we're okay at the moment as far as holding ground. We've gone into a range. There's no question there, and kind of a 50 pip range between 113.40-ish and 112. Well, it's probably a little bit more than that. But I think we may be in there for a little bit. So it's not going to be. There's no absolute clarity here for me. I haven't got certainty around anything on the euro at all.
Yeah, as you said, that's an interesting pattern as well, isn't it? You know, it is a like a complex inverted head and shoulders, that one, because of the double bottom down there. But it does effectively, you know, result in the same pattern where we do get that that potential for some accumulation, but it's just got to get through that level. So your entry is really above the break of the neckline there.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
If we're calling that the neckline,
yeah,
then there's a few ways to look at this, really. And there was probably a trade when that broke, and it wouldn't have panned out. And I can see, and I know people did trade it at this level. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. I know people were trading this at this level, and I resisted the temptation to do that because I could see this resistance here, and I could also see that we needed a retracement on these three bars. So that's why I waited. I still think I'm probably not ready, or it's not ready if it is going to go, but I don't want to miss it either if it does. So I just want to keep a small amount in my mind, a relatively safe entry place. I don't want to enter until we hit here, really. And if it hits here and then takes me in, happy days. I'm more than happy with that. But it's getting messy, you know.
Yeah.
It's getting messy.
Yeah.
But I definitely see this level, and I definitely see this level. So, but I think a lot has to happen to drive it through these lows. And
yeah, I mean, I suppose the thing is you do have the drivers, so that they, you know, they are there. So the FTSE 100 has just opened up, and it looks like it has just started to attempt to tip me into profit here. Just on my entry level here, so it's just tipping me into a pip or so of profit. So it looks fairly a little bit heavier out there. Actually, we've got the CAC futures are also pointed lower. We've got the DAX futures also pointed lower. Looks like the IBEX is also just flirting with some negative territory. So we may well finally have some joy out of this trade. Now, I'm not saying that the trade's going to collapse by any stretch, but certainly looking to test this weekly pivot looks like a fairly probable scenario, especially because that looks like an area of support on price as well. So you know, I would be looking for something of a 20 pip dip down here. And then we'll see if there's any momentum. and you know, we did have George Washington Day. Was it President's Day yesterday? I'm not sure what they call it, but we did have
Yeah,
a public holiday in the US yesterday. So given that, I think we're really looking to see how the states decides that this is to pan out. So there may be a little bit of toing and froing in this area, maybe popping down here and holding, popping up. We might see just some price action coming back and forth, but yeah, my intention right now is just to hold on and see what happens here. It's going to drip down. You know, what I like to see, particularly with downside, is just some momentum, because if downside is really fueled by fear, when I don't see that momentum, the fear doesn't seem particularly motivated, and a lack of real fear just kind of puts the bulls back in control at a better price. So I do want to see this really break down, and you know, already with the first 3 minutes of trade, there's not a great deal of momentum here. It's, you know, it's managing to hold on, and that doesn't mean it can't just all of a sudden collapse. But certainly as trading is going right now, the bulls are still just about clinging on to any of these losses, and still quite willing to buy up in this area. So it's really got to get through the 71.37, I would suggest. So the weekly pivot giving way won't be enough. It's really got to get through here. And if it gets through there, then maybe we start to see some decent price action movements. When I flip this to a 4-hour chart, then I think we probably get a yeah, looks like actually looks like this point here, doesn't it? Which wouldn't be awful. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad place for me to look for profit. So I think I'd want to aim for this minimum. You know, if I can get down here at some point today, then I will consider taking the trade off and then seeing whether a bounce does create me another downside opportunity. But what I'd love to see, obviously, is it just come down here and continue. If I get a close below this line, then I can hold on. Because what ends up happening is that, you know, I can start looking at the longer term timeframes as the days and the hours and the days pass. So if I bring this onto a daily chart really quick. Now the daily's already given me this dark cloud cover, which does look negative. Now what I want to see is some follow through. So I need this bar to kind of back up the first bar. Now if that bar backs up the first bar, then I can switch to the next day. So Wednesday, then Thursday. And then finally on Friday, I can start looking at this weekly bar, because if this weekly bar ends up giving me something that looks like dark cloud cover on the weekly, or even an engulfing bar, or train tracks reversal, then I can hold even into next week. So it really is just having a look at how this unfolds throughout the next few hours, and then seeing if I can switch to longer term timeframes and look how it's they're then going to hold for a day. So I need today to pass, and I need today to really give me some further bearish price action. Closing beneath some significant levels would be better. If it ends up closing at this point here, then that's just going to suggest that by tomorrow I'm just going to be right back where I started. So then I'll have to make a decision on whether I close, and I probably would if we don't get through.
What if you're still at 7,200 on Friday?
If I see 7,200 on Friday, what up here you mean?
If you're at the 7,200 level on Friday.
Well, this is the 7,200 here. So if it ends up back at 7,200, then I'm just going to have to consider that it's time to hedge.
Well, I'll give you a perseverance award if.
Yeah, if I'm still in this by next week, then yeah, I think I may well deserve it by then.
You will. Patience and perseverance, absolutely.
I mean, it's just there are just issues out there. You know, there's interestingly, there's a report on Bloomberg which talks about a synchronized slowdown between the US and China. and they are both slowing. And this is the thing about it. And Julian really hit the nail on the head yesterday. He said that Wall Street continues to strengthen, and how crazy it was that it was strengthening. And I've got some sympathy with that particular stance, because I don't see why the market has rallied to this point on a lack really of news. And it's one of those that what I'm really looking for is kind of buy the rumor, sell the news, because this rumor is all about China. And so far, we haven't really seen the Chinese American trade deal finished. Donald Trump is incredibly good at saying, being really positive, even when things are hyper negative. He will come out and give a positive stance. The only
Did he win his
caveat.
golf game over the weekend or not?
Oh well, if he didn't, he will have a positive stance on it.
I wonder what they play for. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I started playing golf, when I was 12 years of age. What's that?
Wow.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think I was playing for 5 pence. 5 pence? Yeah, sixpence in those days. Sixpence on the front nine, sixpence on the back nine, sixpence on the result. That, of course, escalated as I got into my teens, and then escalated a bit further when I got into my midlife situation. But I wonder what Donald plays for. You're going to play for a block of units, front nine, and
I wouldn't be surprised if he plays for like $1, like the guys from Trading Places. It'd be one of those.
Think?
Yeah. I mean, he's got so much money. It's not going to be about money, is it?
I wonder would he come on the show and tell us? Probably not.
I mean, just coming on the show is going to be our challenge.
We could put in a request.
We could, yeah. Well, I think we should be putting in a few requests. I wouldn't mind speaking to some of these Labour defectors. I have to get to that in a little while. We got Christo's just asking, do I think Trump meeting North Korea will affect the FTSE if he removes some sanctions? I would. I mean, all of this would be speculation, but I would guess at no. And the reason that I would guess at no is that at this particular stage, the tensions between North Korea have already perceptively, I guess, subsided. There's no real fear about North Korea blowing up right now. So any further lifts of sanctions probably won't help the market. But I would suggest that if they start to put sanctions back on and it goes the other way and tensions start to increase, that's more likely to affect the FTSE. But I think any positive news out of North Korea probably has already potentially been priced in. I think what's going to affect the FTSE now is China. That's front and center for what goes on with the FTSE. It's going to be whether Donald Trump and Xi Jinping can do some kind of deal that they can bring to the market. If it's just a load of fluff by the 1st of March, which is only something of 11 days away, and I guess that makes it maybe 8 or 9 trading days. I'd have to do the proper calculations on that. Then that would suggest that if nothing comes back, we could well see the FTSE start to weaken from that, because this is about speculation. So if that speculation isn't backed up with facts, then I think people start to lose a bit of interest and lose a bit of confidence in the FTSE 100 rally. But this is probably going to be shown in the charts. If this comes back to this point by the 1st of March, then we could start to see some base carved out here. But if it comes back to this point, then that might give me an opportunity to hold on to something. What's it going to be by the end of this week? So we got the 2nd, 19th, so 20th, 21st, 22nd is Friday, which leaves us to the 25th, Monday, which means next week is the last week for the negotiations to really kind of kick in. So I think this week could be quite interesting, and because of that, it suggests, if we just take the what appears to be driving this market right now, and I have to say appears because there's so many different things that you can miss on this stuff, but let's say what appears to be driving this market is the tension between Donald Trump and China, and America and China. what that starts to suggest is that there's going to be no decision by the end of this week. So this week could be more indecisive. And if this week is going to be indecisive, it's going to be expressed something it's going to be expressed in a bar. Now that could be expressed in a couple of different ways with this particular bar, because either we could get something of a spinning top where we come all the way down and we come all the way back up again, or a hanging man, which would probably be a little bit more uh, negative, but hanging man still has kind of confusing connotations, because really, if it breaks the low of the hanging man, that can be incredibly bearish, but the hanging man can break to the upside. So not sure what that is, and if anybody doesn't know what a hanging man is, a hanging man looks like this. A hanging man will look like this. This is where you need a pen. Mind you, it's cleaner without. Probably don't need to change colors. You probably get the idea, but this is what a hanging man looks like, So the bar could end up coming all the way down and then ending up at the highs. Now, the reason that the hanging man ends up being a little bit of a confusing pattern is that if the hanging man breaks the lows, that could be serious, because all those that have got in anywhere in the price action rally will have stops at the lows, and that could trigger a waterfalling to the downside. This is quite a good example here. It doesn't really it's not quite the hanging man, because the hanging man you want to close at the highs, and when you get that little tail, it becomes a spinning top. But there's one here, so that has negative connotations. If it breaks lower, it ends up pushing a little bit higher, but you can see that the push higher with a hanging man didn't really create a significant rally. And then we get one that does look like a hanging man. That the problem with this one is that the body is a little bit too big. With a hanging man, again, you want the body to be no more than 1/3 of the whole range. So it has a little bit of negativity there, but then you get something of a hanging man spinning top hybrid, and when it breaks the lows, that's where the stops are sitting. Just probably between these two areas, there's stops sitting there, and that's when you get the waterfall down. So it can have negative connotations if it breaks lower, but it does end up being a little bit of a pattern of, or a bar which can create just some confusion, because it's obviously given us a pause because of where the range, so the period closed and opened. If it opened here, sorry, it opens at the highs, and it did close at low, so it does suggest that there's just a little bit of bearish price action in a very small area, but the range is the key thing. So that could happen. Or what could happen is we could have something which looks more like that. Where this doesn't cut down more than 50% into the first. So this bar here represents this here. Now, if the second bar doesn't cut down more than 50%, this can actually provide something of a shelf. And that shelf can be a fairly decent point for traders to continue the rally to the upside. So if it hasn't cut down more than 50%, then it can, as I say, just act as a point where people want to get back in again. So that won't really be a clear signal. The hanging man won't be a clear signal. You're waiting for bar 3 with a hanging man. And with this bar, you're waiting for bar 3 as well, really, to give you the direction to the downside. Whether it just starts to rally to the upside, or whether it starts to start to move further to the downside, and then start to kind of pierce further into this one. Incidentally, the dark cloud cover again is bearish, because it has to cut in kind of 2/3 of the first bar, which is why when we look at this on a daily chart, This is why this is dark cloud cover, because the second bar is covered more than 2/3 of the body of the first bar. So that does give us a bearish indication there. But bar 3 again is going to be quite important. This does suggest that today we get some bearish price action. It just doesn't tell us how deep. You know, this is why when we see a hammer in an area, if we see a hammer in at a low, it can really have it can send some really clear signals out there. So I'm going to have to put my line back in there, and I'll show you an example of that. Here we go. I just want to put that line back in. I'll show you an example of the hammer, where the hammer just gives us a really clear picture. Now you have to be careful with hammers. You want them to be shouting, and when we look at where is it? I'm just going to get my. Here we go. This one here, this one here shouts that, you know, if the top of the hammer is broken, then it's likely to go further to the upside. And again, there's a little bit of a wick at the top, so it's not ideal, but you can see by the range, the body is only 1/3 of the whole range of the bar. Now, what tends to happen with hammers, not always, but what does tend to happen, is that you get a retest of the top of it, and that's the best time to enter. You know, you don't always get that, but when you get a retest of the top of a hammer, it does tend to be a really good point. That's a decent bounce point. Now I can probably show you some examples of that as well. There was
really powerful signal if it's backing something else up. If it's giving a second, if you like, level. If it's giving a double bottom, for instance, if it's giving a retest of a support level, really powerful.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? If you want it to be in an area where it's got some strength. Sorry, I don't know whether I'm going to get a hammer on this that I need. I thought there was loads on the yen recently, but were there not loads of hammers on the yen? Not sure if we did have. This is one here. This is the thing about the hammers as well, is that in fact, yeah, it was this one, I think. Maybe not. But this is the thing about the hammers, is that a lot of people just enter at the highs and with a stop at the lows. But I personally like to enter when it retests the range of the hammer. I like it to take off a little bit. It does mean that you miss some, because it can be such a powerful signal. But it also
remember the pound. If you go back to the pound yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this one. That's a really good example of a hammer. Really good one on the pound dollar daily. And look at the result. You know,
I was waiting on a retracement to get into that. To do
yeah,
exactly
it didn't happen, did it?
No, what's happening now?
That's the issue, is that it doesn't always come back and test the high, so you do end up missing some of these, and that would have been a disaster to miss that one, because
don't remind me.
Well, you did, you missed that one. That's 500. I mean, it's still only a 2-to-1 trade. If you were to trade, you know, the low, the hammer, this is why I like to see the retracement, because if you trade the retracement, then you can start to look for shorter term time frames to see where you can put your stop. You know, so if you're looking for a retracement, you're looking for the top of the hammer to be around the low, and rather than entering here with a stop there, then you can kind of look at it. And if I bring this onto a 4-hour chart instead.
So that candle that almost retested it was untradeable.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I suppose this one wouldn't have been awful, but yeah, it's way too. But yeah, it's still 200 pips, which means that you're not even getting a 1-to-1. Yeah, so
The one
you
to
can.
trade was the one we actually looked at it in this show.
Yeah.
The one to trade was the spinning top after the retracement off 129.80.
We're talking about this one here.
What chart are you on? H4.
This is H4.
Go to the daily, mate.
Oh, they're daily. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, this one here, you're probably talking about,
That one.
right?
Yeah, that was the one to trade.
Yeah.
And I refused to trade it. Dopey me. Can't even remember the reason now. Oh, there was resistance. So I was trading straight into resistance.
Yeah.
So I chose not to take it. But that was the trade. That was
I remember, because PH did that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. Well, we're starting to see the pound strengthen somewhat here as well. I wouldn't have thought the pound is going to go too far before those average earnings are released, but we'll see what happens with that. We got some at least we've got some price movement going on right now.
Yeah, I've got a few things happening, mate. You want me to take a look?
Yes, mate. Yeah. We're getting close to the half hour, so you take a look at that. I'm going to listen to some news and see if I can bring you some stuff.
As you know, I don't trade the first candle of US session, well, the first 30-minute candle. In any case, screen coming my way. Okay, there we go. But a few things to look at here. The Aussie is one where we have pretty much a false break, if you like, of the weekly pivot, if there's such a thing. Of course, there's such a thing. Big bear bar there as a result of news this morning. This was the release of the I can't even get the bloody letters right. The Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, there we go. Release of the RBA's minutes from their last meeting, which of course was around about a week or so ago. It being a bit more than that, a couple of weeks ago. And we've come below the weekly pivot, tested it, rejected it. This is a reasonable place to take a long for mine. But as I said, I don't trade the first candle of UK session. And this may well be a good example as to why I don't do that. It's because it goes both ways, and it often goes both ways, and you just never know where your stop's going to be safe on a 30-minute chart anyway. So for that reason, I don't like to trade that. But I'm on notice here, looking for the long. If I miss it because I'm not trading the first candle, then tough luck. But it is one of my rules. And the rule's there because I got burnt many times trading the first candle of London session, thinking, oh, look, this is a perfect setup. And it goes, and out you go with egg all over your face and a little bit less in your bank account. So that's why I don't do that. But it's not the only one I'm sweating on. Pardon me. Cable has also, but now gone too far. Well, it depends where it closes, to be fair. It's got 5 minutes to go. What I'd be looking for here is for a retest of this trend line and the daily pivot. Round about the confluence area would be fine. Again, I'm on notice here that there's a long on offer. This candle's giving me that. I can't trade that candle, and I won't trade above it, that's for sure. But if I get back down here, then I will be looking for the bounce. So I'm looking for the second wave, not the first, in other words. Euro is a bugger. And the reason it's a bugger is because this is the setup that I would like to trade, where we have had the break and retest of this line. This has now gone too far, and it's now going to take me into the trade I don't want to be in. Just don't want to be in that after a big candle like that, and especially after the first of UK session. So I'm just really sweating on this not taking me in here. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to change the entry, but I don't want to be taken in on this bar. Much prefer this to retrace now and then give me a far better entry. don't want to enter on this candle. We shall see how that pans out, but that's quite a bullish signal for mine. There's no question about that. I just don't want to be taken in on the biggest candle of the day. That doesn't work for me. What will I do? Well, I'll probably look. It depends where it ends. If it does take me in and maybe hits here, what I'll probably do is one of two things. I will take profit and get safe, or I'll simply move my stop to entry. And if I get taken out, then so be it. So that's my plan on euro dollar. Euro pound on the 30-minute charts is actually giving me two signals. One is break under here, short. The other is break above here, long. So I know that doesn't help in terms of, okay, what do I do next? But unless you want to place one either side of this, I don't see this as clarity. I don't see this as, yes, it's definitely going short, or yes, it's definitely going long. Yes, we're in a range, and that's probably where we're going to stay for a little bit. So I have to wait and see if we get taken in on the euro, which I don't want off that candle, and look for retracement on the pound, and look for just an opportunity, a second opportunity on the Aussie. Not sure where that's going to come from, but this is definitely giving me a notice that there's a buy somewhere to be had. So I'll be looking for that. Sorry, mate, I did interrupt you, but a couple of things worthy of note there.
No, it's absolutely fine, mate. Actually, you've just given me a chance to listen into a little bit of news, and very
what
interesting.
are they saying?
Well, there's always a decent interview on Bloomberg, and today we have the CEO, I think, or CFO, or one of the guys from Commerce Bank, and he's talking about the euro. He was talking about the euro. Oh God,
Yeah,
my goodness. My goodness. Well, he was talking about the euro being in a bit of trouble, and the fact that the growth in the eurozone is pretty pretty sparse, and the fact that people are celebrating a 1% growth is pretty bad, and also the fact that the ECB is going to have to introduce some sort of stimulus program, because last year they were talking about the eurozone and the euro bloc turning the corner. That's what they were saying, that we the eurozone had turned the corner and everything was going to be fancy again in the eurozone, which is why we saw specifically the pounds. It was a significant weakness against the euro last year, coming off the back of last year. But it seems that there are some real issues in the eurozone. So it doesn't necessarily affect this intraday trading, and you being long the euro is not the comment on the table. I think this is for much longer term planning. And it seems certainly from this particular commentator, and one yesterday, interestingly, that the euro, the ECB has got some work to do on what needs to happen next. It seems that Germany has got some surplus in their savings, but it seems that they might have to prop up the likes of Italy, possibly Spain, and maybe even France. But there does seem to be some calls for some euro weakness out there in the long run. So we don't really have too much in the way of what's moving the markets today. But on the medium to longer term views of two commentators that I've heard so far, it sounds like they are fairly bearish the cross. So these rallies, as high as they may go, could be an opportunity for the big guns to kind of come in and start selling it off again.
Yeah, look, I'm not prepared to take a loss on this now after that candle. So, well, I'm prepared to take just a very small loss. So I'll just move my stop up just below this bar. If it takes me out, that's fine. What I might do is replace the entry above that candle. I might think about that, but I'm happy to take just a small loss on this of a couple of pips. That won't upset things too much. But this is exactly what I don't want to happen when I'm trading a 30-minute chart. I don't want to be taken into a a trade on that bar, unless, of course, my entry's here, which, you know, under different circumstances, it may well have been. I do like that scenario, but first candle of the day and trading straight into the daily pivot's not my go. So,
are you in this trade now? Then are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
I've been taken in here.
I see. So you're short on this?
No, I'm long.
Oh, you're long. Oh, so you've actually got a little bit of profit.
Well, I have at the moment, but
Nice. Well done, mate.
All right. Not going to last, mate, unless this takes off, which it may, of course.
I mean, that's a fairly significant rally towards the end of that bar, isn't it? I mean, what's just created that?
Pass. No
Okay,
idea.
so with this, would you consider taking it off at because you're not too confident about it continuing? Would you consider taking it off at a little bit of profit and then looking for a re-entry as this comes back to the daily pivot?
Depends where it goes. I'm not prepared to see it come back.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not at all, because it could come back the whole distance and take me out. I just hate that candle. It's a really bad candle. So I'm prepared to take just a couple of pips of loss here, and then look for that entry, exactly as you say, off the daily pivot maybe. So that's the way I'm going to play it. If we get this rally and it continues, obviously no harm done. But don't like the bar at all. What's it done to the others? The Aussie.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because actually your entry point there could actually provide some support, couldn't it?
Look, it could. I'd like to know why it's rallied.
Yes.
But it may just be that, okay, we didn't have any US session yesterday. We've got a bit of a bullish signal going back into the charts. This one here, big rejection there. So it may just be that the market's having a look at technicals and saying, well, okay, we're back inside the range. We've had a big reversal bar. Obviously, we're buying. Yeah. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we got a couple of trades on. Both of them are in a little bit of profit, but
yeah, mine won't last too long. If it comes back at all, I'm out. I don't want to be in this trade. So
yeah.
What happened to Euro Pound? Anything? Nope. Yeah, like I said before, this is not certain in any way, shape, or form right now, and that's why I think my entry being down here is probably cool. A lot can happen inside this range. What else did I have going? The Aussie we're waiting on. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to treat this Aussie now. I'm looking for longs. There's no question now, but finding an entry might be tricky. There may be one here. There may be. I'll see what this candle does.
Interesting.
Gone too far for me. Yeah, I can't trade. I certainly can't trade here. That's for sure. I don't know how I'm going to get into this now, to be fair. Bugger. That's the risk I take with not trading the first candle of London session, of course. I miss occasionally an entry or two, but I may just be saved a bit of pain as well. We'll see.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, you know, over the years, I mean, have you done enough analysis on this to know the best way to trade it? It's tricky, isn't it? Because you know you can just get an explosive move and then all of a sudden be taken out, and then you know.
Buy Euro day. Who knows? Looks like the dollar might be coming off. Although the Aussie hasn't really gone with it. What the Dollar yen do? No.
The dollar yen rallied.
What happened there today? What's oil doing today?
Yeah, I was just looking at oil.
Probably a bit more upside in oil. a little bit anyway, up to around about the 57.50 mark, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be expecting today. Yeah, I'm not that interested in too much more, I don't think, at this point. Okay, euro.
I mean, would you consider just putting a stop or break even if it comes back, it comes
Hard
back?
to complain when you get into the trade you want to be in, but
Yeah.
it's how I want to be in. It's the question.
So is it more that you would have preferred a couple of bars to get up there?
So I was expecting deeper.
You were expecting a deeper retracement first.
I put this order in just in case it went, and it looks like it has gone. We'll see. I'm not going to change, because if this rally is just someone's pressed the wrong button or an emotive move as a result of something else, then then I think I don't want to be in it. But
well, it's holding ground
as it is at the moment. There are buyers about, and it looks to be a buying session. Then okay,
it's holding ground there, right, mate?
There's a thought that I should put my stop back where it was.
Where was your stop before?
My head, but I've seen this happen too many times before, where the first candle of London does go in one direction and the next one completely obliterates it. You seem to be got a bit of momentum going too, mate.
Yeah, it has started. Can you hear me? Can't hear me?
One of us has got an issue. I don't know if that's Ash or myself.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, just let me know, guys, on YouTube if you can hear me.
Okay, it looks like Ash might have a microphone problem. We're just trying to rectify that in the background, guys.
Okay. Nobody can hear me on YouTube, it looks like.
You can hear me, however.
Oh, you can hear both of it. Okay, all right. Hold. Nice one. Thanks, Ben. All right, let me just.
Here's the plan. Here's the plan with this euro. Now that I've had a little bit of time to think about it. If I do get taken out here, and the candle closes around about this level, I'll replace the order, but I'll go just above where I was. So I am prepared to sacrifice a little bit here. On this account, it's only a few dollars, no big deal. So that's what we'll do. If we get taken out here, then I will replace the order if the candle closes. If I'm wrong and this does rally after a little bit of retracement, then I'm wrong. It's as simple as that. I'm leaving money on the table that I should be putting in the bank. But I really, out of experience, hate being taken in. And I know that's probably a revenge thing and I shouldn't take it into consideration. But I hate being taken in on these candles. They just annoy the crap out of me, because really, at the end of the day, I've missed this much, haven't I? And that puts me in a bad position. So I'm actually negative before I start. And that's the thought process that's going on in my mind. So can hear me and you. Okay, that's interesting. Well, Ash can be heard.
You can't hear me though, can you, mate? Right, Jeff can't hear me, guys, which means we're going to be talking over each other. It's like the odd couple. And
Ash, I'll leave it with you for a tick then.
Okay.
And see if I can fix the issue on my end.
All right, let me just tell Jeff that's cool.
So I'll stop talking.
Okay, so let's go and have a look at the FTSE. So the FTSE has started to climb down a little bit. Now, the thing with this is that we've got levels that, now I don't know if anybody's in this trade, and hopefully you are, so this analysis actually, you know, is worth kind of giving to you guys. But what we have, when we come to these, what we have obviously is that the first point of call is this weekly pivot. Now there are going to be buyers in here, and when we look at a 5-minute chart, this is where it starts to get kind of this is where it starts to get expressed just with the tail. You know, that tail has kind of shown that, that there are some orders down here. Now, it doesn't mean that just because it gets below those orders that that it's going to waterfall down, but it does mean that there's a little bit of strength here. So the question is, do the other traders at this particular point see that there's enough of a hold to suggest that this is the point to start buying up again? And it might be that these lows need to be tested one more time. So you can really watch these bars very, very closely to see what the actual, and this is where we look at price action. You know, what's the price action telling us? What's the activity in the bars telling us? And so far, the activity is suggesting that that we've come low enough for this first period. So it's got to take out this area here, which is another 10 pips below here. Now it's just about 6 pips below the weekly pivot. So if we can get below that weekly pivot, I would suggest that this bar below here might just manage to kind of hold a few more traders interested. So the breakdown here is going to be the really interesting one. So we're looking at 71.32. So doing the maths on the UK 100, which I know you guys don't have the chance to trade the FTSE. So it's 70.32. So we're looking at 14 pips below. So with the UK 100, you're looking at 71.78. As a breakdown point. If it breaks below 71.78, then we should get some decent move or a decent move to the downside. Now we can see, as I say, you know, you go to the 5-minute chart, and this is you know, pretty well expressed that the orders are sitting in this area. So so it's going to take a little bit more than just one test of this area to keep those traders interested. And what I really want to see is what's the follow through here. You know, there are some orders sitting in here. Now, most of the price action will happen towards the end of a period. So it's how this 5-minute bar ends up closing. There are possibly some further, you know, a little bit more stacking in at this particular point, trying to burst it through the weekly pivot. But let's now switch to a 15 because we're getting a 15-minute bar about to close. Obviously, if this pushes all the way right back up again, that's going to be a fairly bullish looking signal. Now we want to see with a hammer. Another bar as well. I mean, you know, different people play hammers in different ways. A hammer in itself is a really powerful signal, and you can just take the hammer as an entry bar. That's not a problem whatsoever. But there are different ways to play this. That, you know, you could look at this and see if price action manages to get back to the highs. If it dips down, then you know there are some orders in this area, so then you can look for the push to the upside, or you can put an order in the highs. Or what would be an absolute disaster for a hammer is if it breaks the lows, because, you know, a hammer is so bullish that a break of a low would suggest that stops have just been obliterated. It means that the power and the momentum to the downside is just too strong to hold back the dam. Okay, Jeff, let me just quickly. So, you know, I'm not focused on this 5-minute chart. The 5-minute chart is just, you know, for me, just gives me that little bit of a better entry. It's not really useful for any other means than that, or the 15 really. You know, the 5 and 15 are just for better entry. So when we flip back to the hourly here, this is going to be what happens in the next 15 minutes. Where does it end up? Do we end up on the neckline of a head and shoulders? Because what we could be looking at is a few different things. This could be a left shoulder, so yeah, this could be a right shoulder in this area with a head here, or it might be that this is the left shoulder and actually this is just one big head. So so it could actually just come down to this point and then start to spring from that point back up again, hitting around about the daily pivot, and then all bets are off, and then I'd want to see the waterfall down again. So all I can really do is hang on, and the bar that's really of interest to me today is the daily bar.
Gotcha.
Ah, well done, mate.
Yeah, I don't know why they just kicked me out. I must have been swearing or something, was
Who knows? Who knows
I?
what was going on? Maybe
No,
they
not
knew that you were about to play a tune. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So yeah, I was just
That's
saying that
good.
the daily bar is the bar that really interests me, which means that you know, really no matter what, I will be hanging on for the day today, and it'll be tomorrow that I'll make a decision on this, or possibly by the end of the day, depending on where this ends up. Not quite sure what the drive is going to be. I think that average earnings could do something. You know, that the shape of the pound could do something, but I think holding on for the day and pretty much ignoring what's going on with the charts is probably going to be much better practice than doing anything else. Mainly because this isn't an entry bar to the upside. So no matter what happens,
Yeah.
the likelihood is that we get buyers and follow through after yesterday's bar isn't really there. It's not really that high, so I don't really need to be too concerned today. What I want to see is what happens by the end of today. What has this bar actually triggered a move to the downside? And if it has, obviously I'll just hold on. If it hasn't, that's going to be expressed in probably something of an indecision bar or a spinning top, and then I'll have to make a decision tomorrow on whether I hold or whether I just kind of lick the wounds and take the loss. But I'm willing to wait this one out, certainly for 24 hours anyway. So we'll be kind of like looking at this a little bit more today. Now the other thing is the 4 hour.
Just before you go on, mate,
Yeah.
I've now changed my stop loss again.
Okay.
I'm trying to change my stop loss again.
Let's have a look at that. Do you want to show it live, or do you want to just do that in the background?
My screen is frozen. Hang on 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'll try and show it live. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll have a look what Jeff's doing. There's not really too much more I can say really on this, except for holding for the day is going to be in my opinion the wisest thing to do. So I'm just going to wait and see on this one.
Okay, happy days. Now, my thought process, as always, is up to the minute. And when I saw this candle take me in, I'm horrified. I hate it because I can see a potential immediate reaction straight back down. Haven't had that. So that means we've got a bit of a hope here. So what I'm going to do is put my stop loss back to 12 pips, which should put me below the daily pivot and the trend line, except it doesn't want to move. Maybe if I drag it. No, that doesn't want to move. Why so? Modify. That's interesting. All right. If you're following this, what I really want to do is move my stop loss to here. And the level is, as I said, minus 12, I think. 113.05. That's where I want my stop loss. Maybe if I go this way.
Got a few technical issues today, mate.
Yeah, it's not doing what it should do. It clearly says move stop loss to 12 pips. And it's not doing it. So what do
You
I
can't
do?
grab it, no?
Yeah, I'll just take the EA off. Now I can grab it. Now I can't grab it. What the hell's going on? Okay. Terminal. Modify. Stop loss. What did I say it was? 113.05.
12 pips down, yeah.
Okay,
Well
that's
done.
got it done.
Well done. Just in time.
Right. Yes, just in time. Looks like it is just in time. So again, the reason I've done all of that is these candles can reverse very, very quickly. First candles of UK session. It hasn't done that, so therefore I'm happy to have my stop where it belongs, and that is underneath the daily pivot and underneath the trend line. So risk back on for that one. We're just below entry at the moment. Aussie looking good here. Let me go to the hourly chart. Yuck, that doesn't look good at all. Let me go back to the, oh, gee, that's a horror. What am I thinking? Gee whiz, didn't want that. Looks so nice on the 30-minute. I still think I'm there. Yeah, I'll place this order. We've got 8 minutes to go, but it depends on how this candle closes. If a candle closes like that, I will place it along above it. I'll put my stop. Yeah, I'll put my stop here and see how we go. Cable now coming back. You know, that's exactly what you expect to happen. What I expect to happen when a candle such as that appears, and that was my fear on the euro. There goes euro pound longish. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. So pound's coming off, mate. This is just a retracement though, for sure. So there's no such thing as for sure, but it looks to me like a retracement. Against the yen, it's still doing okay. Wow, that's a beautiful candle too on a smaller time frame. And euro yen's Gonski. All right. No change, mate. Nothing to do except wait on this Aussie. I'll have a good look at that when the candle closes, and if need be, I will place the order.
Okay.
It's a good little backup. It's a good little backup of this higher low. So yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I've got a little bit of time to wait on this FTSE to see how it's going to shape up. Well, obviously I've got quite a few hours to wait until we see what's going to shape up here. Just some kind of look on some stocks here. There's interesting. I've just switched my kind of my diet to not eating any meat or animal products after this book that I accidentally read a section on, and it was a complete accident. I didn't know this book was going to talk about the meat industry, but it did, and I can't now go back. I'm not going to kind of bore everybody with the details because it will put you off eating meat and having animal products, and I wouldn't want to take the pleasure away from anybody else. But anyway, some funny things are at foot with this stuff, and it looks like there's a bit of a surge in veganism, if you like. But I still eat fish, by the way. Because they're, you know, as long as they're not farmed, if they're in the sea, I haven't got a problem with anything that is killed for food. Just as a lion will take down a baby zebra, I think it's okay for us to go and hunt something. But anyway, there's a company over here called Greggs, and Greggs are a bakery, and there's quite a lot of anger in the vegan community because they've just brought out this vegan sausage roll, and the meat eaters are eating it. Apparently, it's really delicious, so the meat eaters are eating it. So by the time the vegans get there, it's gone.
There's none left.
Yeah, there's none left. So that's one aspect. But also, there's a bank over here called NatWest. And NatWest were approached by a woman in a place called Bristol who wanted to a loan of just £400 because she wanted to go on this nutritional diploma, and the guy, I think it was, yes, the man on the phone at NatWest refused her the loan, and he said to her, I quote, "All vegans should be punched in the face," because
Oh my god.
So and she recorded this call, and it's been played, obviously, sort of like with the national press. And lo and behold, NatWest have given her the loan, so she's not only got the loan, But also, NatWest have offered to give the woman £200 in compensation. So actually, the course is going to end up costing her only 50% of the loan if she's clever and just
Oh, I'd
pays
be
off.
asking for more.
Yeah, I would. I'll be like, I think I
Comment
want,
like that. My
I want
God.
the whole lot. So, I think that's kind of funny. But you know what? His qualifying of this. At the end, he said he felt that vegans were forcing their beliefs on him, and I have to say I've got a little bit of sympathy for that. I mean, only a little bit. I think obviously it's extreme to say they should be punched in the face, but I'm sure he probably said it in good humour. And to say that they were forcing their beliefs on him, as I say, I've got some sympathy for that because I don't really want to be a vegan. I just can't now not because you kind of can't now you can't unsee what you've seen, can you? So I've got to go through with this now. But I wouldn't really want to kind of I wouldn't want to force my beliefs on other people or force what I know
And that's the whole thing. Absolutely. It's
yeah.
got nothing to do with anybody else, what you do. And I don't care what you do. I don't care what anybody does, as long
Yeah,
as they're
because
not forced down my throat.
I think if it was some layman that had said this to me and changed my view on it, I'd be a bit fed up with them. I'd be a bit bored of their them spouting off about this, that, and the other, and I wouldn't really want to hear it. So I don't think it's fair by anybody that holds a belief to say this is the way it should be. People have to find their own way and do what they believe at their own time. That's the other thing is that that everybody might find themselves eventually not wanting to eat meat or animal products at some point in the future. Who knows? But they've got to find it in their own space, and they've got to do it for their own reasons. But yeah, I thought that was quite a funny side note, and I suppose I'm seeing it. It's a bit like when you buy a car and all you see are these specific cars that you've bought. I'm noticing these stories more and more recently, and it seems like the kind of the only thing being reported. But I thought that was quite a nice side note and kind of a funny little story that was willing to tell you about.
Well, you're right. Question: how can we trade this? How can we trade veganism on the rampage?
Do you know what?
Short beef.
That's a great question. That's a really good question. Because we're always looking at that, aren't we? I mean, as I said yesterday, I want to talk about some stocks, and I want to talk about some stocks that we see that are potentially changing the world and changing the planet and the way that we look at things. And if we look at veganism to start, Christo saying short Brazil and Argentina, which is a good point, isn't it? Certainly Argentina with their their big beef industry, very very popular is Argentinian steaks.
We export a fair bit of beef too.
Yeah. Well, you could do that, but do you know the way that I would play it is to start with. Let's just buy some stocks in Greggs.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's one way we could do it. I think also that there must be some technology out there. Corn, I don't know who make corn, but things like that, I think could be of interest. Now I'm going to bring up Greggs as a stock so we can have a quick look through the numbers.
While you're doing that, I'll just have a look at this Aussie. Yeah,
I like the way that euro's looking, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to place a long on the Aussie as well. We'll just do that.
Big boost to the upside in the FTSE. So I'm back to square one effectively.
Half a lot will do on this one. It'll be a pending order. Entry level is going to be. Why can't I see the entry level? Quickly. That's a bugger. 2 seconds.
No problem.
Aussie. Can you tell me the high of the? I don't know why I can't see it. I'll just guess.
It's okay, mate. I can tell you what we're looking at. Cool.
The high of the previous 30-minute bar
on the Aussie dollar.
That's 71.20.
It is the high is 71.60.
What?
Oh, sorry, 30-minute. Sorry, buddy. That's the daily. The high is 71.21.
Righto. Well, we'll go in at 71.20. And we'll put a stop loss around about, might as well be sensible, mightn't we? And put it in the right place. 71.05. And look, we'll look to take a bit of profit at the trend line here somewhere. Yeah, out there somewhere, I reckon. So 71.30. So we'll take profit at 71.30. I'll place the order to start with. So I want to take profit here, guys. If you want to follow this, we'll just knock. How confident am I this is going to go? Not. Jeez, I'm bearish. Okay, this is only a quick trade, guys. We're only going to go to the daily pivot. Okay. We'll go to the high. We'll go to here. Close all at 71.40. So half off here at 71.30, rest off here at 71.40. That's what I'll be doing. And the entry is above this bar by a couple of pips. So if you want to follow it, they're the parameters. Cable, no go. Don't like the candle. Euros fiddling around at this resistance level. Let me take a look at it on the 4 hour. Yeah, look, no change. Everything's still as it was. We'll take profit where we said and see if it can go from there.
Great stuff.
Me, mate?
Okay, great. Well, let's just finish up with a quick look at Greg's, and then we will close up. Very, very, very quick look at Greg's. Dahl producers. Ah, okay. I know nothing about Dahl producers. Might have to look into that as well. You have to give us some companies. So this is
Dahl's made of what, chickpea or something, is it?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I mean, when it comes down to culinary expertise, that isn't my game, unfortunately.
I've eaten plenty of Dahl.
I made a nut roast the other day, and it was it fell apart as soon as I got it out of the oven. It was my first shout.
It fell off the bone.
Yeah, it was so succulent. So right, let's just have a quick look. So this is Greg's. I'm looking at Greg's here. Now let's start with the chart really, because the chart has just gone crazy. This is the moving Greg's. It looks like the time to.
We'll come back to Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin's had a little bit of a rally, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And that's another stock I wouldn't mind talking about is Nvidia because of Bitcoin. So we will discuss that. So we've had some decent earnings. Now I suspect this may well be. Yeah, so this is today. So a huge gap and go to the upside so far with Greg's, and it looks like that vegan sausage roll is really helping things out. So I like. I mean, it is a bit of a joke, but it's true. So if we're looking at something like this, then we are going to have to wait for it to come back.
What about puff pastry then?
Well, they make that too. They make that too. I have to say they make a killer donut as well, which I probably can't eat anymore. But they make a killer donut. So when you go into these service stations on the motorway in the UK, then you have a choice of Krispy Kreme donuts, or if you've got a Greg's, then for a third of the price, you can go to Greg's and get a much superior donut because they stack it with not topping the stuff you put inside. I can't think what that would be, but they stack it with it. It's amazing. So we can have.
You know what's amazing? Krispy Kreme's exactly the same story as McDonald's. Their product's absolute garbage. yet
Yeah.
they sell truckloads of it.
Yeah, but thing is, they're so expensive. You know, when you sort of think like for a donut, you're paying
They used
over
to
£1.
queue up here in Australia because they didn't have Krispy Kreme donuts. They used to absolutely line up, not to get them, but to order them. And then they had to wait until the order was filled.
Wow.
Unbelievable. What's
Yeah.
wrong with people?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I don't, I don't know, mate. I don't know. But go to Greg's if you want a cheaper, superior donut. Quick check on the financials as well. We'll just have a quick look at these. But if we look at this on the summary,
Sorry,
earnings per share. What's that, mate?
Sorry, man. I'm just waffling in the background.
Okay, earnings per share at 8%. The forecast yield is at 2%. So decent growth is coming in here. The PE is a bit high at 23.4. So that's the one negative. But when we look at the company here and look at the income, then in fact, no, let's have a look at the balance sheet. Total assets are at 441 million, and when we look at the liabilities, they're only at 141. So a huge beat, so they can cover quite a lot of problems here with Greg's. Now it's a pretty simple looking company as well. It doesn't need a whole bunch to operate. Just make some decent donuts and some good veggie, some good vegan sausage rolls, and you're away. Especially if they're as delicious as people say they are. Total equity is continuing to grow as well. So just with a few metrics here that we can see that they are in pretty good shape. I think some of the issue with this is that the consensus is to outperform, but the target price is at £14.24. And is currently at £17, so it's got to cut back a little bit. But if you like to invest in things that maybe about to kind of shift in their paradigm, and we're looking at things like the change in people's diet, then I think we could do a lot worse than buying Greg's, because even McDonald's have brought out a veggie burger, which I don't think it was particularly tasty. So that they haven't really gone anywhere, but it'll be the others will follow. If Greg's managed to kind of get this sausage roll thing on the go, then the others will follow. You can guarantee that McDonald's will change their model and go into that particular market as well. But yeah, we're gonna have to see this one cut back. But if it does cut back, sorry, that's the FTSE. If it does cut back, then I think Greg's would be a buy. And it's going to have to cut back. So they reckon 14.24.
Okay. Well, Christo doesn't trust Greg's. Pedro reckons, yeah, Krispy Kreme was same in Canada. They were queuing up all over the place for Krispy Kreme.
Is that changed now, though?
Has what changed?
The desire for Krispy Kremes.
Oh yeah, I think the world's woken up a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that the world wakes up too quickly. That's true.
This on a technical level does look like the 14.24, but yeah, I quite like that. Quite like the way that things are going there. Anyway, mate, we have gone over time. Should we
talk about Bitcoin tomorrow? Because I've got another session coming up.
Yes, you go ahead. Let's talk about Bitcoin tomorrow. Talk about NVIDIA as well. Have a look at some of those numbers as well. And
are you in Chloe's session?
No, it's on too late for me.
You reckon? What about me?
Well, yeah. Geez, what time is it in your neck of the woods at that time?
Well, up past 11 or something.
11:30, yeah.
No, half 10.
You should be snuggling up with a nice warm bottle of milk at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's
in the middle.
Let's come back to this tomorrow. FTSE 100 is it put in a pretty aggressive bar on the 15, but that's getting swept away again. So looks like some pretty heavy price action in the early session today.
Yeah, when I looked at the candles this morning, the spreads were like, what do I trade this morning, or what did I put the order on? Euro pound, I think. Pound Aussie. I placed an order pound Aussie as well, that I didn't tell you about on another account. The spreads were like 15, 16 pips for about 40 minutes.
Oh, really?
I don't know what was going on there, but there was something going on.
I don't know. I mean, we've had this splits in the Labour Party that might be playing a part. I'm not sure, but there's certainly some volatility. Yeah, it might be that with the US coming back on board as the day begins, it might be something to do with that. But it does certainly look, expressed in the last, the last bar and the current bar's price action. This is really expressing that that volatility is picking up. So as long as volatility is moving to the downside, I'm more than happy with this being the case. So I do want this to continue.
Absolutely, you want volatility because you've been sitting there for 4 days without it. So
yeah, absolutely. Which I suppose that's the other thing as well, is that with such a well, certainly on an intraday basis, a long period on an intraday basis where there's been nothing going on, an inevitable explosion is likely to happen here. So I could certainly do with it. I'm a little bit peeved about the price. I think I could have got at least 15 pips better than I got. But so be it. That's where it is, and that's the situation. So let's see how this one turns out. We'll be back tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel. Good luck, guys. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your Krispy Kremes if you're going to go and buy one. If you've got a Greggs, I would recommend that instead. Enjoy yourself
immediately afterwards.
Enjoy yourself too, mate, and enjoy the show later on. And I'll speak to you in the morning.
All right, happy days.